At the victory banquet, Shen Yanxiao's female companion straddled his lower abdomen, passionately sharing wine mouth to mouth. When our eyes met, she shrugged indifferently. After living and eating with Yan for 2 years, I know every mole on his backside. If anything had happened, it would have happened long ago. Why would you be catching us in the act now? Shen Yanxiao's brothers all shielded her before me. What does a capital lady know of blood? How could she understand our bond forged through life and death battles? Blame yourself for coming to the general's residence without warning. You've truly dampened our spirits. Shen Yanxiao silently handed me a large bowl of wine. You were in the wrong. Apologize to the brothers. Otherwise, our past means nothing. Gazing at the fiery liquor that could end my life, I smiled as I presented the key and ledger Shen Yanxiao had entrusted to my care. Then it shall be null and void. Turning away, I entered the palace to petition His Majesty for an imperial match. They all assumed I merely couldn't win Shen Yanxiao's heart and sought to seize him by force. Shen Yanxiao swore solemnly, threatening me. A royal match isn't impossible, but you must abide by 2 conditions. First, I promised Xian Yinyu to observe her 3-year mourning period. The wedding must wait a year. Second, you've tarnished Xian Yinyu's reputation. To make amends, I'll have her enter the household alongside you on the same day, with no distinction of seniority. I smiled and agreed, and Shen Yanxiao was utterly triumphant, until the imperial decree arrived, and the name inscribed upon it was not his. On the day Shen Yanxiao returned triumphant from battle, he did not come to see me. He sent me 2 multicolored feathers, with a message. One should live like a phoenix soaring freely through the heavens, not like a sparrow confined to a cage. Shen Yanxiao held a grand victory banquet at the general's mansion in honor of the phoenix of the heavens. When I, the sparrow in the cage, foolishly went to find him, Song Xianyun was boldly straddling Shen Yanxiao's lower abdomen. She cupped his face, their lips meeting, pouring shot after shot of fiery liquor into his mouth. Shen Yanxiao's Adam's apple bobbed as the hand gripping Song Xianyun's lower back strained so hard. Veins bulged. Only when Song Xianyun caught sight of me did she mischievously deepen the kiss, then bite down hard on Shen Yanxiao's lips. Rolling over, she propped herself up beside him, half reclining as she pouted. No fun. No fun. Even though Yen covered my whole mouth and not a drop spilled, I still won't admit defeat. He won by having thicker lips and a deeper throat, not a fair win. Shen Yanxiao picked up the wine bowl from the table, tipped it back, and drained it in one gulp. Then he smiled affectionately. I concede. I'll drink the wine. Satisfied? The brothers in the camp joined in the teasing. When has young General Song ever lost before the general? Take last time, she said the general's steed was as swift as lightning, and she rode it effortlessly. The general found an excuse to let her win. And the medicinal herbs and garments sent from the capital? He always let young General Song choose first, content to take whatever she left behind. But lightning was raised by me. Those herbs were sent to Shen Yanxiao after I crossed mountains and rivers. My curled fingertips grew faintly cold. Song Xianyun, smug, called out in my direction. Miss Zhao heard that? It was Ah Yan who lost to me. Don't get jealous over nothing. She rolled her eyes mockingly. You capital city ladies, with nothing better to do than stir trouble, always craving validation through men. I hope you're different. Xue Tong? You. When did you arrive? Shen Yanxiao's fleeting panic and alarm proved he knew his behavior had overstepped. I smiled faintly at him. Bad timing, just caught you biting your lip. Shen Yanxiao flustered momentarily. Xue Tong. Let me explain. Here we go again. Song Xianyun threw up her hands, interrupting him with a scoff. The usual capital lady's sour grapes and troublemaking routine. I told you so. My temperament just isn't suited for returning to the capital with you. But Yen insisted on dragging me along. Well, now I'm dead meat. She shot me a contemptuous sideways glance. I've lived and eaten with Yen for 2 years. I know the exact locations of every mole on his backside. If we were going to have anything, it would have happened already. What business do you have catching us in the act with some stupid wager today? If you've nothing better to do, retreat to the back courtyard and embroider a few more red bridal veils. You'll surely need them someday. A woman's bridal veil is always embroidered by her own hand. Since marriage happens but once in a lifetime, only one is ever made. Song Xianin was mocking my petty nature. Doomed to be cast aside. Destined for multiple marriages and never finding happiness or peace. Yet the men before me couldn't grasp it. She's merely my good brother. Xin Yanxiao explained. Xianin grew up in the barracks, her nature is wild and unrestrained. Careless and bold. Unlike the delicate, scheming young ladies of the capital. Xue Tong. Your mother was a female general too. You should understand her. Not misunderstand her. Right? Before I could protest, Song Xianin let out a startled awe, and scanned me up and down in disbelief. Huh? Your mother was a female general? Honestly, I never would have guessed from you. Heh. Not that you're not bold and spirited. But you seem more like a traditional delicate young lady. Jealous. Unreasonable. Throwing tantrums. And acting all delicate like you can't handle a little fun. Ian. You're built like a tank. But you'd better take it easy. Miss Zhao's petite frame can't handle too much roughhousing. Don't break her back, I won't be able to help you then. Let me put it this way, her waist may be slim, but her hips aren't wide enough. Not much to work with there, doubt she'd be able to bear sons. She shook her head disapprovingly while scrutinizing me with a gaze that made my skin crawl. See? Such a delicate flower, 2 little jokes and she's already turning pale. Ah. She's nothing like the carefree brothers back at the barracks. Ah Yen. Once you're married, the brothers won't come looking for you anymore. What a bore. Xin Yanxiao gave an awkward chuckle, shooting me a warning glance to drop it. But does that mean I deserve this humiliation? I turned my head away, snorting derisively. Precisely because my mother was a female general. I never understood why becoming a general as a woman requires growing extra roots, not only sharing meals and beds with men at will, but also. I glanced at their lower abdomens, covering my mouth with a handkerchief as I chuckled. Even indulging in special pleasures in public. How shameless. Oh, perhaps female generals and junior female officers are different. My mother was always dignified and proper. Revered by men and admired by women, a heroic woman whose name is etched in history. What of Song Xiaoqian's glorious achievements? Surely they aren't limited to the 3 moles on General Shen's backside and the length of his. Song Xianyan's sarcasm froze on her face. I pouted and shook my head. Truth be told, it's fortunate you grew a root. After all, the world is more forgiving toward men. All sorts of unsavory characters feel entitled to critique women. If you were a woman, you'd be in real trouble. They'd mock you for looking like a skinny monkey with a pig's head, utterly mismatched. They'd sneer that your chest holds no milk, making you feel like hugging a male sibling. Born in the capital, they'd laugh at you as a sheltered canary with narrow horizons. If you were born in a military camp like me, they'd mock you for being raised in a den of men yet still untouched, surely hideous beyond belief. If you hooked up with a general, they'd have more to say, see? Besides crawling into men's beds. What else could she do? Pretending to be a man to deceive others? Doesn't she really think she's Mu Guiying? Her only skill is breaking a general's short spear. Song Xianin nearly wept with anger. I spread my hands innocently. I spent my youth in barracks. So my speech is coarse. Just a joke, you're not upset. Are you? With a glance, I signaled my maid to take the 2 multicolored feathers she'd used to mock me and pin them to Song Xianin's head. The great sage gains 72 transformations when adorned with phoenix feathers. I'll bestow these phoenix plumes upon you. Xianin. to help you master your own magical feathers sooner. May you display your prowess and bear a son. This woman truly held others to strict standards while being lenient with herself. When the joke turned on her, she couldn't take it. Snatching the feathers from her head, she flung them to the ground and shouted, her voice thick with tears. Xinyan Xiao. 2 years as brothers. A bond forged in life and death trials, you'll let her treat me like this? Xinyan Xiao's expression hardened. His strategist and deputy commander immediately flanked Song Xianyunian, comforting her as she sniffled and wiped away tears. One grumbled. Some pampered city girl who's never seen blood, how could she understand the bond forged on the edge of a blade? Fine. If our brotherhood ends on the day of the general's wedding, at least I'll have no regrets in this life. The other agreed. His tone laconic. The general's household needs new servants. If they can't even stop a woman, how can they protect the estate? Protected by their shield. Song Shining lifted her chin haughtily and glared at me. I'm General Yan's childhood sweetheart, the future mistress of this house. Who dares stop me? I'm the one who should leave. I'll ride back to the northwest tonight and spare you the sight of me. The deputy general snorted coldly through his nostrils. Stepping in front of her. The blame lies with certain individuals. Arriving at the general's residence without so much as a word. Shamelessly treating this place as your own backyard. Crashing our victory banquet, truly dampening the brothers' spirits. My apologies. Had I known your victory celebration involved live erotic performances, I wouldn't have come, if only to spare my own eyes. The military strategist, unable to bear it any longer, shook his head and sighed. Miss Zhao comes from a distinguished family. How could she be so vulgar? What can I say? I ran into scum. It's like when you're fighting, you get what you get. Whatever strength lands on your hands. The strategist should understand, right? Surrounded by 3 men. Utterly isolated. Xinyan Xiao remained silent. Seeing his brothers wronged, he furrowed his brow, picked up the large bowl of wine before him, and coldly thrust it toward me, commanding, "You were in the wrong. Apologize to my brothers. I was frail as a child, drank countless medicinal concoctions, and can never touch alcohol. Even a single taste of flour-carved crab wine nearly killed me. Xinyan Xiao guarded me for a day and night, swearing to fight anyone who ever made me drink again. Staring at the potent liquor that could kill me, I knew neither my body nor my very being held any place in Xinyan Xiao's heart anymore. The joke of childhood sweethearts walking hand in hand through life had run its course. I exhaled softly, presenting the keys and ledgers Xinyan Xiao had entrusted me to safeguard. My abrupt intrusion today was my fault. Once I return these to you, I shall never set foot in the general's mansion again. The mansion was entrusted to me by Xinyan Xiao before his military campaign. Back then, he said the general's mansion would eventually be mine, and handing it over early would free him from worries. Times have changed, people and things are no longer what they were. As I turned to leave, Xinyan Xiao shouted, his voice strained with anger. All I asked was an apology to ease my dilemma. You'd rather threaten me with the authority of stewardship than bow your head? My footsteps faltered slightly. Then Han Zhao's voice boomed. The general has just returned to the capital only to have his brothers humiliated. This general's mansion is no place for you in the future. Song Shining suppressed a smirk as he chimed in. Since ancient times, loyalty and righteousness have been hard to balance. If brothers can stick their necks out for each other, how much more so when it comes to backing down? I'll return to the northwest tomorrow. I apologize. Is that enough? No. Xinyan Xiao suddenly roared. Xue Tong. If you don't apologize today, our past together means nothing. My heart felt like it had been stabbed. Yet I forced back the bitterness and turned to offer him a faint smile, saying farewell to my 12 years. At 5, his foster father, my uncle, and my father died together on the battlefield. We knelt before their coffins, comforting each other through the grief. At 7, I contracted smallpox and hovered between life and death. He risked his own life, staying by my side in the courtyard for 7 full days. At 10, when he first understood romantic feelings, he solemnly pledged that I must see no one else but him. At 13, as he marched off to war, he vowed to return in glory, to drape me in a splendid wedding gown. But at 17, he said, "The past doesn't count anymore." Then it doesn't count. My reply was sharp, my departure resolute. I never looked back. I turned and entered the palace, petitioning the emperor for a royal match. That night, the wind was cold. Xin Yanxiao watched the figure being buffeted by the chill, never once looking back, and suddenly felt a hollow ache in his heart. He wanted to chase after her, but the expectant gazes of his brothers and Xianin's tearful resentment held him fast, making him unable to move. Never mind. These past years, Xue Tang had grown too comfortable in the capital, relying on her own prestige. She'd lost the wisdom and generosity she once possessed. Since she was 5, she'd been my constant companion, seeing no one but me. No wonder she threw such a tantrum. That temper, so intolerant of even a speck of dust in her eye, needed to be tempered. Once she came to terms with it, she'd publicly apologize to Xianin to save face. After all, both the general's residence and herself would still be hers. Ian, feed your godfather a bite of meat. I'd say the piece you're nibbling on looks the most delicious. Song Xianyan's words snapped Xin Yanxiao out of his thoughts. He exhaled softly, then casually offered the piece of meat he'd been nibbling onto Song Xianyan's lips. He could see the smug satisfaction curling at the corners of her mouth. But Xianyan's had no one to rely on. If he didn't indulge her and protect her, she'd struggle to survive in this capital city full of schemers. Besides, having stayed by his side in the camp for 2 long years, she had no reputation or future left. He still hadn't given her a proper status, reserving the position of legitimate wife for Xuetang. Why couldn't Xuetang understand his concession? Ah well, he could always coax her later. But worldly affairs flow like water, and life is but a fleeting dream. Life rarely offers second chances. Half an hour later, I knelt before His Majesty and accepted his arranged marriage. My mother was struck by a poisoned arrow while suppressing a rebellion. On her deathbed, she entrusted me to His Majesty. He had proposed marriage to me several times before, but I refused each time because Xin Yanxiao had not yet returned. It wasn't until I became a 17-year-old spinster that I learned he had long kept a female companion in his camp. The Empress Dowager urged me to let go and choose the promising third prince. She said, "As you've seen, all men in this world are the same in the end. If he doesn't betray you today, he'll still surround himself with wives and concubines after marriage. A woman's path in this world is always arduous. Yet if one broadens their perspective, by sparing oneself the anguish of love, one may attain unparalleled blessings. Like this Empress Dowager, bearing the burden of sumptuous robes and delicacies, enduring the toil of receiving the kneeling reverence of 10,000 subjects, is that not splendid?" I came to this realization, and thus entered the palace. Beneath the emperor's feet, eyes and ears abound. All matters within the general's residence reached His Majesty's ears. "Feng Hui, do you have anything to say?" The third prince respectfully replied. "Your humble son wishes to ease the emperor's burdens." "Then, what reward do you desire?" The emperor thought I was keeping the third prince as a backup. Xin Yanxiao no longer wanted me, so I desperately clung to marrying him. Out of guilt, he must offer compensation. The third prince finally understood why I chose this night to urgently petition for the marriage. The emperor fears too many schemes, acting impulsively won his favor instead. Xie Fenghui glanced at me with the corner of his eye and replied softly, "Your humble son desires nothing. To desire nothing is the greatest desire." His tactic of retreating to advance greatly pleased the emperor. The sacrificial rites are now entrusted to you. Do not disappoint me. The third prince's expression remained utterly unreadable. Yet in the carriage returning me to my residence, he turned to me with a radiant smile. My deepest gratitude. I shook my head. The truest ally is one who fulfills your grand ambitions while helping you achieve your own desires. By entrusting your highness with the sacrificial rites, His Majesty signals to the entire court his esteem for you. As the political landscape reshuffles, capable minds will naturally rally to your banner, paving your path forward. As if I'd misread him. A flicker of stiffness crossed his face. Chuetang is the greatest asset the Empress Dowager has given me. The rest matters little. I chuckled softly. Do not forget the hardship we endured to stand together today. Only then can our journey ahead be sustained. He was gentle and compliant, always quietly retreating into the shadows, never vying for attention or competing. His restraint was heartbreaking. The Empress Dowager remarked that such an obedient person makes an excellent puppet. News of my petition for an arranged marriage spread throughout the capital. They said that since I couldn't capture Xin Yanxiao's heart, I resorted to desperate measures to keep him. I didn't take it seriously. But Xin Yanxiao and Song Xianyun's group did, blocking my path outside the tea house. Song Xianyun sneered. Had we known Miss Zhao was so desperate to marry, we brothers shouldn't have pushed her to utter those harsh words about never entering the general's residence. Now you're stuck, forced to beg His Majesty for mercy. True enough. Isn't that how all you capital ladies operate? Clinging to high branches, refusing to let go, racking your brains and using every trick to wed into a prestigious family. I thought you were proud, but you're just as terrified of not marrying the general. So you rush headlong, trying to intimidate others with your status. On this bustling street, her few careless words threatened to ruin the reputation I've spent years building. The young ladies behind me were seething with anger, ready to confront Song Xianyun in righteous indignation. But before they could speak, Xin Yanxiao's strategist, Yun Su, interjected with a gentle tone. Young General Song has never been one to dwell on trivialities. She meant no harm. If she has offended any of the young ladies present, Yun Su offers his sincere apologies. Han Xiao folded his arms. Miss Zhao, you shouldn't press too hard just because you've known him since childhood. The general is a man of his word, not some dog you keep chained in your courtyard. Doesn't he even have the freedom to be friendly with his brothers? Even after marriage, he'd never sever ties with his comrades or distance himself from young General Song. Xin Yanxiao strode up to me, chin held high. Xuetong. He reached out to pull me close, but I pulled away. His hand froze midair. After a long moment, he let out a soft chuckle and continued, as if to himself. Since you've already petitioned His Majesty for a royal match, I shan't embarrass you further. Just one thing, Uncle Xianyun fell in battle barely over a year ago. I promised her I'd observe 3 years of mourning together. Our wedding must be postponed until next year. The betrothal gifts I once promised you, since Xianyun remains unmarried, I must reserve a portion for her. You'll only receive half. Also, Xianyun has no family left. The general's residence is now her home. You must yield to her in all matters. I couldn't bear to listen further and cut him off coldly. Impossible. Refusing? Then don't marry me. A desperate bride resorting to coercion, fearing she'll become an old maid. Is that it? Smack! No sooner had Song Xianyun finished speaking than a teacup struck her mouth with force. All eyes turned upward. Xia Fenghui sat composed by the window, his gentle features masking seething anger. I couldn't help but chuckle. That foul mouth deserves a slap. Well done. Xia Fenghui flashed me a faint smile before turning coldly to Song Xianyun. To question His Majesty's decree and show contempt for royal dignity, guards. Strike her face. Who dares? Xin Yanxiao and the others shielded her fiercely. It was merely a few sharp words. Xian Yun was naturally blunt, she meant no offense to royal dignity. I implore the third prince to show mercy, considering this general's military merits. Xia Feng glanced back at me, his dark eyes veiled with a hint of pity. So you think a few military merits make you special? The entire Xuetong family served with loyalty and valor. Both her parents shed blood and gave their lives for our great Chu, ultimately wrapped in horsehide as corpses. They couldn't even spare a thought for their only daughter. And how have you treated her? General Shen's heart has grown so twisted. If your foster father knew this, he'd regret ever rescuing such an ungrateful piece of trash from the beggar's den. Shen Yanxiao's expression stiffened, his face flushing with anger and indignation. Han Shao stepped forward urgently to shield him. Your Highness, you are unaware that Shenin fought shoulder to shoulder with us. She shielded the general from arrows, carried my brother's body, and even when Yuns was near death, she encouraged him daily through his ordeal. Unlike certain others who, relying on their privileged birth, know nothing of human suffering and live in silk and satin, she never once bullied her. Is that so? I stepped forward, my voice cold. Deputy General Han, you claim the capital's young ladies live in pampered luxury, untouched by bloodshed and ignorant of life's hardships. Then let me ask you this, when your General Shen took Song Xianyun to admire the moon in the desert and they were hunted by enemy soldiers, fleeing with an arrow lodged in her back, who saved her? He looked puzzled, then burst into laughter. You wouldn't dare say it was you, would you? My eyes hardened as I spat out each word. It was precisely those pampered capital ladies you so despise who sent their families' lifelong guards to serve as your brother-in-arms Shen Yanxiao's death squads. That day, 30 men threw their bodies as shields, pierced by countless arrows, to save your general and young Song. Han Shao paled, urgently seeking confirmation from the two. But their evasive glances proved everything. Guilty. Han Zhao's voice faltered. It was just an accident. Young General Song didn't want it either. An accident once. What about the second time? Han Zhao's eyes flickered. If your sworn brother hadn't shielded Song Xianyun, who insisted on picking gesang flowers to decorate the tent, how would he have been torn to pieces by starving wolves? She returned carrying a skeleton, and you hailed her as a hero worthy of your deepest gratitude. Yet your dear brother was torn apart before her very eyes, while she hid in a rock crevice, covering her mouth in fear of being implicated. Han Zhao's body jerked, his gaze trembling as he looked at Song Xianyun. She shrank back, seeking refuge behind Shen Yanxiao. General, tell me it's not true? You yourself said that young General Song was unpretentious and put righteousness above all else. How could she? Circumstances forced her hand. What does that have to do with her? Shen Yanxiao impatiently shielded Song Xianyun from all the scornful and contemptuous glances, then turned his gaze to me. Xuetong. Enough. Not enough. I turned to the silent strategist. Yun Su. You were poisoned by a venomous snake. Your organs burned like fire, making death seem preferable to life. Song Xianyun encouraged you to survive, and you were grateful. But speaking a few words, is that so hard? Do you know that precious medicinal soups were prepared daily, without a single day's rest for 3 whole months? Those priceless herbs, those cotton quilts and coats that kept tens of thousands of soldiers warm, even the dried meat, were partly funded by the very spoiled darlings of the capital you look down on. They took to the streets waving banners, squeezed into their relatives' backyards shamelessly begging, even pawning jewelry and clothes to scrape together the funds. Using medicine meant to save your life to heal a wounded tiger cub nearly cost you your life. Shouldn't she feel guilty? Seeing Song Xianyun cowering behind Shen Yanxiao, unable even to lift her head. He understood everything. He hurriedly apologized. I was narrow-minded and ignorant, kept in the dark. I bear full responsibility. Please accept my apology. Yun Su bowed deeply, then stood silently beside Han Shao. The two who knew the truth grew as cold as frost. silently distancing themselves from Xin Yanxiao and Song Xianyun. Xin Yanxiao fixed his gaze on me, his eyes complex. So, you knew all along? Why did you? I won't smear anyone's achievements by slandering others. Your victory in the great battle is undeniable. But your character, in my eyes, is utterly rotten. Xin Yanxiao tried to explain further, but the noble ladies behind me blocked his path. They coldly declared, "We received the finest upbringing, sheltered by our nation and family, blessed by our parents' grace. And we too possess hearts full of loyalty and righteousness. Merely because we were born into privilege. Because we didn't crawl into a general's bed like certain others. We are looked down upon as short-sighted caged birds? We refuse to accept such contempt." As Her Imperial Majesty the Empress Dowager said, civil and military officials alike are the pillars of the nation. And the distinction between men and women lies only in their different roles, not in any hierarchy of superiority. To look down upon others only proves one's own shallowness and narrow-mindedness, nothing more. Furious, they pulled me up and dragged me away. Behind us came Xia Fenghui's command, tinged with anger. "Get moving!" This time, Xin Yanxiao was genuinely panicked. He shouted frantically toward my carriage. "Xue Teng, stop this nonsense. How can Xianyun live with herself after being slapped?" Finding no response, he barked coldly. "If you insist on this, I'll kneel before His Majesty and beg him to revoke his decree." But I never once looked back. Could she truly be abandoning me? Xin Yanxiao's body trembled. When he lifted his gaze again, the carriage had vanished into the roaring crowd. Meanwhile, the panicked Song Xianyun had been forced to her knees. Blow after blow landed, leaving her mouth spilling blood. Xin Yanxiao has sought an audience with me many times, only to be turned away each time. Xia Fenghui, however, frequently enters my courtyard. We sit together discussing evidence, personnel matters, and ultimately, the struggle for the throne. If Xin Yanxiao could be enlisted by Your Highness, he would be a tremendous asset. Yet, equally, if he were not to serve Your Highness, he would become a dagger pressed against your throat. Xia Fenghui placed a piece on the board before lifting his phoenix-like eyes to meet mine. By your reckoning, should I cultivate friendship with him? Then perhaps I should simply kill him and be done with it. His long lashes fluttered as he lowered his gaze, his expression hidden beneath furrowed brows. Yet his displeasure was palpable. Such childish temperament, wearing his emotions on his sleeve. I couldn't help but laugh. But you're destined for great deeds. When you rule the realm, can you judge men solely by their temperament or personal grudges? He lifted his gaze, twirling my wide sleeve with his slender fingers. His clear eyes brimmed with hurt. You want me to curry favor with him? Then I'd rather not have this high position. You promised to protect me, why must I grovel for shelter from others? I sighed helplessly. Let me think. His lips curved into a soft smile, his eyes crinkling like crescent moons. He looked as docile as a soft rabbit I could pet. Don't take too long. Rewards will be distributed in 3 days. But he still thinks you're sulking at him. 3 days from now. When he learns you're to be married, and he's not the groom, can you imagine his reaction? My black ink fell, sealing his defeat. I won't guess. I'll watch. His lips curled in an increasingly uncontrollable smile, though I couldn't tell what he found so amusing. At the palace banquet 3 days later, Xin Yanxiao, who'd sought me out countless times, finally cornered me within the imperial grounds. His imposing presence remained undiminished, though the arrogance and swagger between his brows had faded considerably. Still sulking? The emperor will bestow the betrothal today. How long can you hide? You're 18 now. Why quibble with a mere 15-year-old? A 15-year-old? He went to war at 13, tasting blood on the edge of blades. I took charge of the household at 12, navigating deceit and intrigue. Has he forgotten all that? I fell silent, staring at him as if he were a fool. Sensing his awkwardness, he cleared his throat and tried to reason with me. Last time at the tea house, you publicly damaged Xianin's reputation. She was ostracized by the soldiers in the camp. She can't return to the barracks now. The third prince publicly slapped her, and the young ladies in the capital mock her relentlessly. Xue Tang, you've always been kind-hearted. For my sake, could you allow Xianin to enter the mansion alongside you? Her temperament cannot be confined, let her stand equal to you. Of course. He grew urgent, as if dreading my refusal. The stewardship remains in your hands, the general's residence will be managed as before. She's grown accustomed to freedom, let her be. A mere secondary wife, consider it a favor to me. A gesture for our years together. Will you? Xie Fenghui stood with hands clasped behind his back, frowning beneath the rockery, seething in silent resentment. He feigned indifference, yet his eyes darted toward us from the corner of his gaze. Still clutched in his hand were the pastries he'd secretly fetched from the Empress Dowager's palace. Fearing the palace banquet would run late and leave me hungry, he'd slipped away to get a packet to fill my stomach. The evening breeze caressed us like a gentle hand, softening my heart to a tender, pliable state. Small has its own charm, obedient and sensible, like a soft rabbit nestled in my embrace. I hurried to retrieve my pastries, only to find my path blocked by Xin Yanxiao's towering figure. Xue Tang, did you hear all I said? Do you promise? Xie Fenghui pressed his lips together, his hand tightening around the pastries. My eyes narrowed slightly as I replied indifferently. Whatever you want. After all, it's none of my business anymore. He can do as he pleases. I brushed past him, turned down the corridor, and held out my hand to Xie Fenghui. Where's my pastry? Excitement flashed across his brow, yet his voice carried a muffled pout. I thought you didn't want it anymore. Of course I want them, you worked so hard to get them. We walked away side by side. Below the corridor, Xin Yanxiao's features relaxed, a faint smirk playing on his lips. He imagined Zhao Xuetang's love for him was deep and unyielding. Even if she was prone to jealousy and mischief, he was certain he would remember her kindness in the years to come, showering her with favor and protection. His thoughts were beautiful. Until, near the end of the palace banquet, the chief eunuch, at the emperor's signal, presented the imperial decree granting the marriage. By the mandate of heaven, the emperor decrees, Zhao Xuetang, daughter of the Marquis of Yongning, is poised and gracious, gentle and virtuous, with outstanding character and beauty. The Empress Dowager and I have heard of her with great pleasure and hereby grant her to be the consort of the third prince. So decreed. What? Xin Yanxiao abruptly leapt to his feet, ignoring the stunned gazes around him. His voice trembled as he shouted at me. This is a mistake. How could it be the third prince? It should be me. Your Majesty. It's wrong. Xue Tang, quickly tell His Majesty the edict is mistaken. Everyone stared at him as if he were a fool. Yet he remained oblivious, frantically reaching for the edict. Insolent. Enraged, His Majesty thrust his sword across Xin Yanxiao's chest, forcing him to his knees. This humble soldier seeks to earn your permission through military merit. I implore your Majesty to honor our mutual affection. Blood trickled from Xin Yanxiao's forehead. His Majesty turned to me with a cold stare. Xue Tang, will you marry General Shen? Xin Yanxiao's eyes lit up, his gaze fixed on me with hope. But I bowed gracefully, each word spoken with unwavering resolve. This humble maiden refuses. Xue Tang. Hope shattered in Xin Yanxiao's eyes. Why refuse? Have you forgotten our childhood friendship? Have you forgotten? General. I cut him off. The day you returned victorious. When I returned all belongings to the general's residence. I declared I would never set foot there again. General, have you forgotten? Xin Yanxiao's body trembled. Did he force you? He's 3 years younger than you, how could he be trusted? His gaze turned icy as he fixed Xie Fenghui with a predatory stare. How could an obscure prince, unloved by his majesty, compare to my military achievements? After today, I shall be the Grand General. Shui Tang, do not be foolish. Xin Yanxiao, His Majesty roared. He then slammed a stack of memorials accusing Xin Yanxiao of endangering his soldiers to save Song Xianyun onto the prince's face. Do you truly believe your military achievements entitle you to such arrogance? That you dare look down upon even my own son? No matter how inadequate Fenghui may be, he remains my son. Grand General? Did you crown yourself? Why not let you sit upon my throne instead? Xin Yanxiao and the entire court knelt trembling on the ground. Your Majesty, please calm your anger. Calm my anger? My general is so arrogant he believes my empire would crumble without him. He's so brazen he might as well have a blade pressed to my throat. I owe my very life to his mercy. Xin Yanxiao buried his head in the ground. This humble general dares not. Your Majesty sees clearly. Get out. I fear I might kill you in a fit of rage. Your father, General Xin, and Shui Tang's mother would both curse me as a foolish ruler. Xin Yanxiao lifted his head in disbelief, only to be ruthlessly escorted out. Before leaving, he cast one last glance my way. It held both pleading and remorse, but I offered not a single flicker of response. The emperor paused, glancing at Xie Fenghui, who was feigning hurt. A hint of guilt touched his voice. Fenghui, you have not disappointed me. You conducted the sacrificial rites with exceptional grace. I once thought you were too young and wished to let you enjoy your youth for a few more years. Yet my kindness was mistaken for that of a cold, heartless father. So, no more rest for you. Tomorrow, go to the Ministry of Revenue and assist ministerly in auditing the national treasury and tax revenues. Xie Fenghui concealed the faint smile tugging at his lips and obediently replied, Yes, Your Majesty. When he looked up again, the gazes of the entire court had shifted. This third prince, born of humble origins and previously unknown, had finally stepped into the spotlight. The glances drifted and lingered, finally settling upon me, the orphaned daughter of a military family. Then, it dawned on them. Orphaned daughters of meritorious officials raised by the imperial family were traditionally showered with favor and gifts, nurtured in luxury and fine food, then granted a suitable marriage. Yet I was raised at the Empress Dowager's side. She was broad-minded and enlightened, never raising me in luxury to ruin me like a useless cat or dog. Instead, she placed me alongside imperial princes in the same classrooms, teaching me the art of governance. She guided me spiritually and supported me practically, refusing to let me become an empty-headed puppet of the throne, preoccupied only with romance and rivalries. Under the guise of tending to old acquaintances, she annually ordered me into the barracks to make dumplings and discuss military strategy with my father and mother's former subordinates. She sustained me. When the treasury ran dry, she stepped forward, joining hands with the daughters of noble families, harnessing the power of the elite. She raised hundreds of thousands for military supplies, winning the hearts of the people. Now, observing my marriage to the third prince, they suddenly awoke. The emperor may not have chosen the third prince, but the Empress Dowager and the soldiers of the Zhao and Shen clans were destined to choose only me. Zhao Xuetong, the civil officials, ever adept at shifting allegiances, will surely find reasons to board Fenghui's ship. As for the military commanders, both Yun Su and Han Shao escaped punishment because I pleaded for them, setting aside past grievances. They had been poisoned by Song Xianyun's slanderous tales, fostering hostility and contempt toward me. Now, knowing the truth and needing my rescue, they are overcome with shame. I smiled gently. Military strategist Yun Su, with merely 5,000 troops, achieved a resounding victory over the enemy's 30,000 elite soldiers. Every detail, from the 1,000 cavalry dispersing their formation, to the 100 soldiers setting fire to the granaries, to dividing the forces into 5 routes to isolate and consume them, was executed flawlessly. Your military prowess is nothing short of divine. Military strategist Yunce's eyes lit up. Miss Zhao, you flatter me. Shen Yanxiao's overnight fame was built upon Yunce's masterful command. For one who scorns fame and fortune, my acknowledgement of his achievements and admiration for his wisdom made me the one who truly understood him. As the saying goes, a man will die for his true friend. The shock and gratitude in his eyes confirmed he was destined to serve me. As for Deputy General Han Xiao, loyalty is his guiding principle. After Song Xianyin outmaneuvered him, he witnessed every effort I made to secure military supplies for our troops. He now holds me in genuine admiration. So what if Shen Yanxiao has been sidelined? The 100,000 troops under his command will still serve my purpose. Xia Fenghui extended a hand with a smile, helping me into the carriage. So this is your plan? You say he commands troops like a god, but you're quite the strategist yourself. I placed my hand in his warm palm. So don't disappoint me. The most venomous heart belongs to a woman. Your Highness, be cautious. He shook his head. Not at all. Not at all. I'm afraid of my wife. Halfway through the journey, torrential rain poured down. Shen Yanxiao blocked our path. Xia Fenghui frowned, but I held him back. Now is the time to win hearts. The Emperor just dealt him an invisible blow. If you kick him while he's down, people will only call you ruthless, unforgiving to both civil and military officials. Let me handle this. His lips trembled slightly before he nodded gently, pressing a jade-handled umbrella into my hand. His dark eyes shone with an almost childlike obedience. Don't get wet. I'll worry if you catch a chill. I nodded with a soft laugh. MHM. Shen Yanxiao's spirited vigor seemed shattered overnight. The sudden downpour left him haggard and disoriented. All because of a bowl of wine? You've driven us to this? I only wanted your attitude. I wouldn't have made you drink. Don't I know you can't handle alcohol? Xue Tong. Our 12 years together. You destroyed my future. Stripped me of everything until only my general's title remained. How could you be so heartless? Even now. He didn't see where he'd gone wrong. Still blaming me. I asked him. Was it you who let her go moon-gazing at the border? 30 lives, you. The instigators. Claimed they were spies and left no trace. As their commander, you abandoned them. Are you not at fault? Fearing discovery would tarnish your sister's name. You even glorified her as a heroine who saved your life, without even gathering the 30 corpses. When midnight dreams return, do you feel no remorse? Shen Yanxiao's face turned ashen. Cornered by my relentless questioning, he offered feeble excuses. Do not press me so relentlessly. Had I been in that position, I fear I would have acted even more ruthlessly. I laughed. I would never sacrifice another's life to fulfill my own romantic dreams. I flung the letters he'd written me over 4 years of campaigning onto the floor and said coldly, "The last year and a half of letters were written by Song Xianyin on your behalf. Weren't they? You didn't even bother to read them once." Unaware she'd already told me about your intimate relationship. You carried her on your back for miles. Held her through feverish nights. Lowered your standards for her time and again. You even revealed her identity as a woman to the military strategist and deputy commander, pleading for her respect, trust, and protection. You said I wasn't as open-hearted as her. You laughed at my petty jealousy. You even wished to stay with her forever at the frontier. Even before returning to the capital, you had prepared for it, drunkenly sleeping with your sworn brother. I gritted my teeth to save face and let her enter the mansion. Right? Shen Yanxiao froze in place. I didn't. You did. Song Shining stepped out of the shadows. I told her everything, and it's all true. It was just physical intimacy. We've shared that before. You yourself promised me a proper place countless times. Now she's married to another. Marrying me would be perfect. What's there to fear? Shen Yanxiao staggered, roaring in defense. When did I ever say I'd marry you? You won't marry me? I'm carrying your child, what do you think? If you won't marry me, why did you kneel before His Majesty begging for my pardon? If you won't marry me, why did you scheme so tirelessly for me? Raising her eyes to glance at me, Song Xianyun arched an eyebrow. We've shared meals and lodgings for 2 years. Do you really believe there was no physical intimacy? She turned away with disdain, hooked her arm through Shen Yanxiao's, and dragged the unsteady man toward the general's mansion. We already have a child. How could she possibly abandon the crown prince for you? Yanxiao. From the very beginning, the one who loved you most, cared for you most, and couldn't live without you, that was only me. Remember, only me. Before Shen Yanxiao could respond, Song Shining shot him a look. Several men stepped forward and dragged Shen Yanxiao out with her. Only after their figures vanished into the night did I climb into the carriage. Xia Fenghui sat in silence, lost in thought. I spoke up. After our wedding, elevate the niece of the imperial consort's maternal family to the position of secondary consort. The imperial consort has no children and values her maternal family above all. Her family adores Xiao Shu. Bringing her into the palace will make the imperial consort your greatest ally in the harem. Xia Fenghui's hand beneath his sleeve stiffened. He asked me, utterly bewildered, "Do you really want me to sit on that throne?" I replied firmly, "If you didn't, why go to all this trouble? Is this some child's game?" He lowered his gaze, his expression hidden from my view. After a moment, he answered coolly, "As you wish." Later, Shen Yanxiao came seeking me with some old belongings. I had the steward burn them to ashes before his eyes, scorching his heart of resentment to ashes. But I underestimated him. He bypassed the guards, scaled the wall, and entered my boudoir. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the oil lamp blazed bright. My longbow was drawn taut, aimed straight at his throat. Trespassers in the Marquis's residence shall be shot on sight. Shen Yanxiao stared at me in disbelief. After all we've shared, you draw your bow against me? My gaze hardened. The arrow veered an inch, whizzing through the air to sink into Shen Yanxiao's left arm. Blood spilled as he clutched the wound. Trembling. Xue Tong. After 12 years of affection between us, you truly could strike so ruthlessly? I replied coldly. Our past no longer matters, those were your words. I've honored them, you should do the same. With my wedding imminent, your intrusion into my chambers is unbecoming of a gentleman. This arrow serves to awaken you, to shed your pride and learn to respect women. Should you trespass again, I shall show no mercy. I shall aim for your throat. Shen Yanxiao's face twisted with defeat as the palace guards surrounded him and escorted him out. I shouted at the steward, "Go to the Empress Dowager and request a contingent of elite warriors. Anyone who dares trespass into the Marquis's residence is to be killed on sight." Shen Yanxiao's figure swayed, then abruptly turned back. All that remained was the resolute silhouette of his departing back. Only then did he realize. She truly had abandoned him. After that, I was consumed by wedding preparations and discreetly aligning factions with Xia Fenghui. I secretly sabotaged the depraved first prince, the murderous second prince, and the treacherous fifth prince. The next time I heard news of Shen Yanxiao was on the day of my wedding. The sword he had once promised me arrived as a wedding gift. He never married Song Xianyun after all. When the chaos became unbearable and the household knew no peace, he forced a bowl of miscarriage-inducing soup down her throat, ending the child within her. That woman was mad. She raged through the general's residence, beating and cursing servants, killing countless maids. Only when Chen Shao, pushed beyond endurance, threatened to expel her from the capital did she finally subside. Yet, the day before my wedding, she vanished. The general's residence had lost something, and Chen Shao searched frantically everywhere. I only prayed he wasn't foolish enough to let the defense maps fall into Song Xinin's hands. My fingertips grew icy with worry. Only when Xie Feng's hand closed around mine did I find myself again. The veil lifted to reveal his gentle, handsome face. His moist eyes reflected the sparkling light of the wedding candles. Sister Xue Tong, 3 years my junior. He remained childishly clueless, unable to utter sweet nothings. That single phrase was all he managed. I sighed, placing the ceremonial wine cup in his hands. You should say, today we bind our hair as husband and wife, loving each other without doubt. You will cherish me forever. He grunted a muffled mem, then flashed a sweet smile, his voice soft as a mosquito's whisper. Today we bind our hair as husband and wife, loving each other without doubt. Xue Tong, I will always treat you well. I curved my lips into a smile. Then drink the wedding wine, become true husband and wife, and soon bear children. Love and imperial families cannot be taken seriously. Words spoken in passion may be true at the moment, but people change. I would only be his wife, princess consort, crown princess, empress, not his lover. I won hearts for him one by one, brought women into his harem one by one, smoothed out his troubles one by one. Only these things, nothing to do with love. Until 3 years later, when he finally ascended to the position of crown prince, he asked me again, do you want to be empress? Or just see our child become emperor? By then, our eldest son was already 2, and our second daughter had just turned 1 month old. Cradling the child and playing with him, I whispered softly, both. When I chose him, he promised me these things. I never feared he would regret it. From the very beginning, it was I who won over hearts. I who navigated the intrigues behind the scenes. I who secured the Empress Dowager's support. If he ever harbored other intentions, I would simply work harder, carrying the children to the court myself. He sighed, drawing both me and the child into his embrace, murmuring with resignation, if it pleases you, I'll fight for it all. My hand holding the rattle paused. A cry of alarm echoed from beyond the door. Your Highness. It's dire. The northern wastes obtained our defense maps and launched a sudden assault. Great Chu has already lost 3 cities. Clang! The rattle crashed to the floor. Chen Shao knelt outside the Hall of Mental Cultivation, petitioning to lead the campaign. The emperor hesitated, having already chosen another candidate. It was the crown prince who personally pleaded. Since General Shen committed the error himself, he should atone through valor. Father, I believe General Shen, having fought the northern frontier for years, is the most suitable choice. His Majesty finally consented. On the day Chen Shao departed the city, he gazed at me across the vast sea of people. He looked much more weathered, his eyes deep and profound, as if holding 1,000 unspoken words. In the end, they dissolved into 2 silent words. Take care. He left with unwavering resolve to fight for honor and to avenge his past humiliation. But this time, I will not send men solely to guard his safety, nor will I give him the precious elixir worth 1,000 gold pieces. Life and death are predestined, fortune lies in the heavens. He can rely only on himself. Yunsu stood behind me, fanning himself. Your Majesty's foresight is uncanny. Knowing Song Xining would steal the defense maps, you sent a forged copy instead, luring the enemy deep into our trap. We'll catch them all at once. The Great Chu shall enjoy a century of peace. Your Highness is the savior of the Great Chu. I chuckled softly. In times of chaos, all who fight for country and people are heroes. But he, who plunged the masses into fire and water for love, is truly the fool. Thanks to the military strategist and the deputy general's assistance. How else could the defense map have been swapped so easily? The night wind was bitterly cold. Xia Fenghui emerged from the darkness, wrapping a crimson cloak around me. You've just finished your confinement, you mustn't catch a chill. A nourishing tonic awaits at the mansion. Return and drink it. He was always so considerate that even knowing my mission to see the army off would inevitably bring me face to face with Shen Shao, he still found excuses to stay behind, placing the choice entirely in my hands. He was considerate. So considerate that he never once refused any request I made. He was cautious. So cautious that only on nights of thunder and lightning would he curl into my embrace, whispering, "Sister Xuetong, Sister Xuetong, don't abandon me." Gazing into those perpetually serene, cloudless black eyes, I smiled faintly and reached out my hand. All right. He helped me ascend the heights, exerting every ounce of strength, ensuring each step was steady and sure. Half a year later, triumphant news arrived from the frontier. The northern desert forces were routed, fleeing deep into the wilderness. With their troops decimated and commanders lost, they would pose no threat for decades to come. Amidst the hall's jubilant celebrations, that man murmured softly, "General Shen was struck by an arrow. Though his wound festered, he fought on through the rain. Ultimately, he fell on the return journey." The room fell silent, filled with regret, sighs, and a sense of unreality, as if it all happened in another lifetime. Xia Fenghui clasped my hand tightly. "Don't be afraid. I'm still here." Until then, Song Xianyun, captured alive, was thrown into the room. Her legs broken, she could only crawl frantically across the floor. Yet she raved wildly. I was so close to conquering him. How dare he send me away? Heh. I'll make him pay with his life. Serves him right. Wah. It hurts so bad. My legs hurt so much. It must be that bitch. She slandered me as a man-whore and trapped me in this system, refusing to let me return. I want to go back. I want to go back. I won't go back. I'll marry a noble or a general. Rise above the common folk. I refuse to be a beast of burden. That bastard slept with me, then called me his brother. A worthless fool who won't own up. I won't waste my life with him. I'll go to Shen Shao instead. He's so gullible. He. Such a fool. She alternated between sobs and laughter. Yet her fate remained unchanged, the lash of the whip. The fortification walls were being built when labor was desperately needed. Though she'd lost her legs, she still had her hands, and was dragged off to haul bricks for the walls. To this, Xia Fenghui replied, death would be too easy for her. Didn't she scheme relentlessly to rise above others? I'll make her live out her days as a beast of burden. Xuetong, are you satisfied with my decision? I nodded. Very well. 10 years later, His Majesty passed away, and Xia Fenghui ascended the throne without incident. On his very first day as emperor, he honored my kindness. At the coronation ceremony, defying the opposition of his ministers, he named our eldest son as crown prince. Standing side by side with me, he smiled with gentle, obedient warmth. Xuetong, I did it. After more than 30 years together, he proved both a good husband and a good emperor. In the court, he selected capable ministers, personally attended to every matter, and never slackened for a single day. In the harem, he obeyed my every word, never forgetting his initial promise. Only around the age of 50, when he fell gravely ill, did he grasp my hand and ask, Sister Xuetong, in this life, are you still satisfied? My hand froze. Then I smiled. For decades as empress, my husband and I lived in mutual respect, never once raising our voices. My son grew clear-minded and wise, never causing me a moment's worry. Even the court and harem hailed me as the wisest empress of all time. With no storms to fear and all things going smoothly, what could I possibly be dissatisfied with? My only regret is that child who, at 7, held the pastries I gave him, sweetly called me Sister Shuatong, and promised to repay me. He repaid me with a lifetime of obedience and compliance. To this day, after a lifetime of pretending with him, I still do not know what he truly desired. I have already gained what I sought, a lifetime by my sister's side, fulfilling your lofty dreams, earning the adoration of all under heaven. How could this not be perfection? That night, the cold wind seeped into my eyes, and tears flowed unceasingly. Get well soon, and spend more time with me. Leave the peaceful realm to our imperial son. Let us journey to see the snows of the northwest, the rains of the south, and the seas of Penglai. Shall we? A curve touched his lips, reminiscent of that year when I rescued him from beneath the eldest prince's horse, still that same look of astonishment and helplessness. Yet in moments, he obediently agreed. Yes, I'll do as you wish. The end.